electing a chairperson for tonight's meeting.
Joe's here.
Councillor Harris.
I would like to nominate Councillor Diane LeBlanc as chair.
Councillor Harris has nominated Councillor Diane LeBlanc.
I respectfully decline.
Okay.
I nominate Councillor Harris as chair.
Well, and you're gonna have
Oh,
questions.
I'm gonna have to step down.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I'm looking for a,
Why don't
so,
you come sit next to me,
yes,
Councillor Mack?
yes.
Oh, just like that.
Who else is
You want to nominate anyone else, Councillor Harris?
No, there's,
This is it? Oh, these.
Nominate the guy.
Maybe Joe wants to be the chair.
Councillor Harris has nominated
This is the guy
Councillor
with all the
Mack.
questions right there.
Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Harris moves to close nominations. All those in favor of nominations being closed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Tough seat.
Nominations are closed, there being only one nominee. All in favor of Councillor Mackin being chair tonight, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councillor Harris has been elected chair. I'm sorry. Mackin has been elected chair.
This is gonna go well, I can tell.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Approval of minutes from 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, you have a couple of amendments to them, I think.
Oh, so many minutes?
Yeah.
I have not seen those.
I repeated a couple words in Councillor Mackin. He said, you want to just move those changes to delete
Those
those?
changes?
Okay.
All in favor, thank you, of approving the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Please say
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Did we get the minutes as amended?
They
Oh.
were just,
Kinda
Councillor,
hard to approve them if we haven't received copies.
Fair enough.
I move to table.
okay.
All those in
I mean, they
favor?
were just typos on my
Oh.
part, but,
So are they amendments or are they typos?
well, they were just, I had double written Councillor Mackin.
It looked like ten.
They were typos.
Yeah.
So they're Scrivener's errors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor of approving the minutes with Scrivener's errors removed, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, so our new matter tonight is the 1725 for 509 through 527 and 533 Moody Street, and I see that Fire Chief McGinnis is here tonight. Thank you for coming, and also Purchasing Agent Joe Beulah, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
I'm Jim Cross.
Jim Cross. Thank you. So I defer to the ward counselor on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the room here, I would like to ask to hear from an off-committee member, Chief McGinnis.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening.
How are you?
Stand or?
No, you can stay right there.
Okay.
I know we talked pretty much at length in the public hearing, but there were some questions that were brought back by councilors, which I think, one of which was a timeline. So what I'm hoping to do by hearing from off-committee members while I have the floor is to walk through the timeline with you, Chief, and then ask to hear from another off-committee member, Jimmy LaCrosse, to go over the details and the cuts and also the impact area. And then we'll see if there's anything from Padula. So, Chief, could you answer the question? We didn't have our timeline together when we talked a couple of weeks ago. Can you go back over the main milestones in terms of the Moody Street Fire Station in general?
Right. What I passed out tonight was, these are proposed times, it's a draft. It's some of the basics on the timeline of the whole project, not just the demo. So as of today, it went out to the general register, the advertisement. It'll go out to bid on the end of February. The filed sub-bids are due the middle of March. The GC bids are due beginning of April. And then, that's a little bit wrong there, the funding request begins probably a week or so after that. I got beginning of April there, but it's really about a week later. Phase one construction, we're looking to start at the end of May, and the complete construction, hopefully, by the end of 2020, possibly the beginning of 2021. So that's just kind of the basic outline of the whole project.
And we'll know more about the actual timeline as we go through the bid process and the
Yes.
subs and GCs are selected and their milestones are set.
Correct. This is totally subject to change. This is our hope that we're striving for. And so far, things have gone fairly smooth with our timeline, so we're hoping to stay with it.
And then, in terms of, so that's on the actual fire station timeline, but in
Correct.
terms of, tonight, we're here for the 1725, so I'd like to come
1725.
back to that, since we're in committee. And can we go over just real quick, the timeline for the demo of the Young Building and what's tied, because there were two pieces to the 1725. So can we talk
It's-
about phase one and phase two, please?
The demo of the Young Building would be phase one. That is pretty much set to go for Saturday. Saturday is our demolition date. We believe we have, everything's done. The hazard abatement has been done. The rodent abatement, we're hoping that's done. They've been abated. The fence is actually going up tomorrow. All the social media has been started, getting that out there to the businesses today. We had a press conference this afternoon on it, the media. They're well aware of what's going on and they're getting it out. We'll be doing a flyer drop on Friday to the businesses in the area. So we're trying to stay as transparent as possible with the neighborhoods, because it is going to be a little bit of a nuisance. The schedule for the demolition, like I said, is Saturday. It'll be a one-day demolition, and then a 7 to 10 day removing the debris and bringing in soil to compact the area.
Okay, so if we can stay on the phase one, which is the 509 Moody Street, AKA known as the Young Building. The building, just to make sure we covered this, again, we need to do this in committee. It's fully abated, so the
Correct.
abatement of hazardous materials is 100% complete.
They finished it today, yes.
Okay, and then we'll get into the cuts with Jimmy in just a minute.
Yep.
But I guess, you know, when we were talking prior, we said we put up a construction fence. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the traffic impact? So what part of the sidewalk's not gonna be usable for what period of time on Moody Street, please?
The fence is going up tomorrow, but they're gonna put the fence right up against the building, so it should not impact the sidewalk for the next couple of days. Friday, there'll be Friday, they'll be moving it out to the edge of the street, so the sidewalk will be closed come Friday. They'll have signage on the sidewalks and in the area to point pedestrians to crosswalks, so they can cross the streets to avoid the area.
Will there be a loss of parking space in front of the building?
Yeah, the parking in front of the building will be taken away for a few days while the fence is up.
Okay. And then what is the impact to traffic during the construction? Because once the fence goes into place, that was one of the questions that was asked in committee that we wanted to bring into this working session. What is the impact to traffic?
The impact of the traffic is, well, we have at least 2 police details will be on site. And
One is on Moody, one is on Maple, correct?
yes, well, I don't, depending on where they're working, the demolition guy, that's what they're hired to do is their work. I mean, I'm not gonna tell them how to do their job, but I can imagine when they're taking down those walls on the front and on the side, that they would probably close down a lane if needed, but that would be up to them to decide when that happens and how long. I can't see it being closed too much in the street for that long a time.
Okay, so it's really when they're demoing closest to the road,
Yeah.
where they will limit the
Yeah,
lane.
the front wall and the side wall.
Okay, and that would be Maple Street, right?
Yes.
Heading south, I guess, and then Moody Street, pretty much that corner as you come into Maple. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I would say the whole corner is gonna have to be blocked off, probably one lane of traffic while they're in that hairy stage where they make sure that the building, you know, comes down in the right direction.
Okay, and
I'm
then-
not a demolition guy, but that's the way I would imagine they would do it.
right, and they have spoken on that in our design sessions. Just to go back again to the timeline, so it's 1 day of demo, so literally the public and folks can expect, and this is one of the things again that was raised last time, so it's brought up in the public hearing, it's 1 day of demo, so the building's down. in a
The
day.
building will be down in 1 day.
And so traffic impact, we've talked about sidewalks, and we've talked about abatement and baiting. What about dust control? Can you talk about what the contractor?
Dust control, we've already spoken with the contractor, and we're gonna supply them with a hose line from the Moody Street Fire Station. Take care of the, so we don't have to, normally what you would do is hook up to a hydrant and then run it down. But where we're so close with the station, we have the inch and a half line in there, that it would be a lot easier, then we won't have to block more sidewalks.
Okay,
So we can run it right out of the station.
it'll come right out of the station, and the dust control will be there.
Okay.
So once the building's down, then what can we expect? So traffic goes back to normal, or we go back to normal, and then what phase are we in? We're removing the construction debris and then bringing in
Yeah.
compactable aggregate to basically backfill the site?
Correct. They have to, they're talking at least 2 or 3 days to remove the debris. They'll bring in dumpsters and they'll load it in and they'll remove all that. So there'll be trucks coming in and out, but there'll be police details on site for that also. And then there's another 3 or 4 days after that where they'll be bringing dirt, basically, what do they call, they have to compact it the correct way, it's gotta be tested, and it's gonna be dug up again.
Right,
But-
and so at the end of that, like nose to tail, start to finish, from the time the building's down to the time that backfill is happening, what's the estimate complete window of that project? How many days are we
A week to
expecting?
10 days.
A week to 10 days for that.
And then the fence will be removed.
And so then it will be an open blank
Then it'll
lot,
just be an open lot.
and then we're moving forward on the dates that you
Then
just
we're moving
discussed.
forward on the construction, that's all. As soon as the bids are in.
Well, while I have the floor, I'm gonna ask to hear from Jimmy across from an off-committee member to go over the cuts, because we weren't able, we hadn't received the diagrams back yet for this, where we think the cuts are. And so the request from another ward councilor was, we'd like to see what is known. So I'd like to go over what is known, so that in committee, it's very clear to this group kind of where we believe those cuts to be. So can we pull up the diagram and kind of go over that?
Yep.
So this first diagram was the diagram that was handed out in council last time, which is the impacted area. We'll come back to that. I do want to go over, so that and maybe we could get this a little closer so people can see it, is the color diagram for,
I brought handouts.
okay, great, we can hand those out. Thank you. So again, going with what is known, in terms of what is known, this diagram clearly outlines what is known. And so let's just take a step back and go over what are we looking at from a color coding standpoint, and then we'll go into the cuts. So maybe you could walk us through here what we're seeing and orient us, please.
So, again, my name's Jimmy LaCava from the Planning Department. What I basically did was, This essentially is part of the bid package that's gone out. This is the demolition plan. Felt this would be the easiest one to work with. I went in and I pretty much color coded each utility. So off on the right hand side you can see purple's drain, orange is gas, blue's water, green's electric, and then yellow sewer. And you'll also notice there's two dashes. This is the longer trench, and then there's what we call just a cut, okay? Each utility connects to either the new building, the old fire station, and then the old 509, and then when the new building comes in, which is getting attached to the old fire station, it has to be new. So the misconception here sometimes is, why can't you just either use what's already there, or what you cut, just use that same area? We're gonna try to do our best to do that. That doesn't happen all the time. Once you get underground, you find stuff. We're not gonna use all the existing lines that are there right now. They go back to the 50s, some go back even further. So, you know, we're putting the money into this new building, why not put all new utilities? So, we have two phases to this. We have phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is the 509 building demo, which again is happening on Saturday. To do that, we had essentially, we had 4 services that we had to deal with: sewer, water, gas, and electric. Of those 4, the only one that is requiring a cut, which is out of our control, is gas. National Grid mandates gas be cut back to the main when you demo a building. It's pretty self-explanatory. You don't want to have anything happen during the demo and affect the gas main. So that has to be cut back to the main. The sewer and the water, we were able to cut at the property line. The reason why we did that was to, of course, avoid having to go into the street at this point. It will have to be done before the new stuff goes in, and that'll occur during phase 2. The electric doesn't require a cut. It's underground in a manhole, so you just pop the manhole, go in, disconnect it.
Okay, so for phase 1, all utilities have been cut and capped in accordance with the requirements of the demo of 509, with the exception of gas. And that will be cut and capped at the main.
Correct.
And that's planned for this week prior to Saturday.
Correct. And the gas, just so you know, it's down here on Maple. It's coming out of 519.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of phase 1. Can you walk us through just a little bit about phase 2 here and what we're looking at in terms of utility cuts?
So for phase 2, you have essentially two phases within the phase 2 in terms of the cuts and then the introduction of the new. So you have all the old, which like we have in 509, and then you have pretty much, you have to replicate that with new. So you have 2 sewer, 2 water, a gas, and then at least 1 electric. So in order to, so this building will be down, site's cleared, then you have the old buildings. Your 2 water, your sewer, and your gas will have to be cut and capped at the main. And then introducing a new sewer, 2 water, and a gas. Does that make sense?
It does.
The only one point that can I make
Yeah,
is that
please.
the main fire station needs their services while they build the new building. So that won't be cut until after the new building is built.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's a
that's
lot involved
kind of
with this. I
fancy.
don't want to get into the weeds with it, but from a planning standpoint, you have to do it at certain times, which is another reason why someone might say, well, if you're going to cut the gas, why can't you put the new gas in now? And you know, there's a laundry list of reasons why you might not be able to. With each utility that you see going down Moody and Maple, you'll see these dashed trenches and cuts. So these are the anticipated, as of right now, going into bid, what we foresee as a requirement to either, to basically cut and cap what we know is existing, and then hopefully utilize that same cut to bring in new.
So in the spirit of what is known, you're able to show in phase 1 where that cut and cap is, and then in phase 2 where the known cut and caps are of the existing utilities and what needs to be up and viable while the new phase of the fire station is built, and then eventually those existing utilities of the older piece of the fire station would remain, and that would eventually be cut and capped. And then new services are gonna be run into the building, either through these trenches or net new, but that will depend on the final design of the station. Is that correct?
Yeah. There's a lot of coordination to do with the GC on that process, because you're gonna have new lines and older lines for the other building, like I said, and they have to keep them up because we're gonna have trucks in there too,
So this
it's
drawing,
gonna be a coordinated thing.
and so this drawing is a certified drawing, like you had this reviewed by Wade Putnam, and this was looked at so that we know kind of where we're going from this. We've
Yeah,
gone
so
through
this
the
is a
process.
result of reviews that occurred a couple of weeks back at 75% submissions. Well, usually it's 2 submissions, 50, and then as you get closer to the end, this is pretty much, I think this was last Friday, so this is what's been put out to bid.
Fresh off the press.
Fresh.
So-
And all I did was just color the information so it kind of pops out a little bit, because that was asked.
Yeah, it makes it very clear to know which line is which. I think it better explains it. So, before I turn it back over to committee for other questions, I wanna just go back to the impact area. I wanna go back to the impact area, so now pull up the impact picture. And so orient us, from where we're talking cuts here, can you just kind of point where we are on the streets there, please, so we can kind of tie these all together, and then you'll see why the impact area is a little bit larger than just a regular street opening.
So essentially, right here is the fire station. So 1, 2, 3 is happening, 1, 2, 3. And then your 2, 4, 6 are pretty much 2, 4, 6. And then you have your one down here, your longer trench here, your longer trench here, and then a small one right here.
So when we're done with those proposed cuts and the laying of the new utilities, again, can you describe what this red area is showing in terms of final product?
So any contractor that goes in and makes a cut has to bring the street back to what it was. What we're having the contractor do basically is he's gonna be paving from pretty much this intersection where Moody meets Alder, down to the intersection of Moody and High, and then across over to Maple at the property line. So, you know, you see these cuts, and it's not gonna just be a patch job on top of a newly paved street. It's gonna be brand new paving. It's gonna pretty much extend this whole area. Now, if you count the cuts here, I think it's a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So for 12 cuts, we're pretty much getting almost an entire block and a half of a new street. And it could increase or it could decrease, so we could have more than 12 or we could have less than 12. Irregardless of that, this is getting paid.
Those are my notes from when this was presented in the public hearing. At this point, I'll turn it over to other councilors.
The at-large council?
Thank you. Coming back in. Just, I'm curious, and then I'll get to my questions on this. How long did the asbestos abatement take?
There's only a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks. They were in for a few days, then they leave for a couple of days, and they're back. Like this week, they came back, and the only thing they had to finish up today was that they had some Freon in a air conditioning unit up on one.
And did that go smoothly?
Yeah, they went very, very smooth.
And they did air quality testing after they did it?
Yeah, everything was good.
And the report.
Okay, so, after the building is demolished, will there be air quality testing in the area?
There'll be several different tests.
I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
there'll be several different tests during this next week after the demolition.
Right. I mean, those things are generally very contained, but often people who live in the area express concern, right? I just saw this building come down, is the air okay to breathe? And there's generally some air quality, and the fire station's right next door. There's generally some air quality testing around that. So this is very unusual, this request. It's really open-ended requests for maybe 12, maybe more, maybe less, for a lot of stuff. And we wanted this fire station a long time ago, so obviously my answer is yes. I can't imagine that anybody else isn't. We're gonna give you what you need. However, I do have a question for the clerk. What does the order actually read like? I mean, again, typically the orders on these things are very straightforward, right? It's one street opening, it's one area, there's some conditions. We know exactly what we're voting.
So you could tie it to a plan, but if they don't know where the utilities are, you can't tie it to a plan. So you just, so
You can tie it to a plan.
you can tie it to a plan. So I'd reference so when we had multiple on South Street, we referenced a plan. So that's one way to do it, or you could say for street openings in the vicinity of. and leave it open.
But we've heard the plan is a best guesstimate, right, for
Yeah,
what we're gonna need.
it's the same.
I just wanna make sure that whatever has to happen to get the language proper on an order, so that it's in proper legal form and gets us where we need to be. I just wanna make sure that that happens between now and next week when we actually have to vote on the order. That's it. I'm good, thank you.
I have two questions. One is related to the point you were making, which is, does the order need to have a time horizon associated? Is this for the whole project, or is this just for like now through when the construction begins? The whole thing, okay.
Soup to nuts, start to finish.
All right, do 1725s ever have an expiration date? Then I guess it doesn't matter what the time horizon is.
I mean, no, we don't.
Great, then it's not a problem, thank you. The other question I have is I don't understand why we need trenches in some places and just street openings in others, and maybe you explained that and I didn't get it, but if you could run through the reason for that, I would appreciate it.
So the longer ones, my understanding was, the hope there is that those will both be used to abandon the old and then bring in new.
Okay.
The smaller squares are for the existing utilities,
Okay.
which is a cut and cap.
Got it. Thank you. All right. That's it from me. Move the council from the meeting.
I would make a motion to approve.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Do I have to say the chair wishes to vote?
Roll call, please.
Sorry.
You really want a roll call?
Roll call. Thank you.
I ruined it.
That'll teach the chair to get off 2 weeks in a row.
Watch it, mister.
Randall J. LeBlanc,
Absent.
Kathy Ann Harris,
Yes.
Diane P. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Christine A. Mackin,
Yes.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Yes.
4 in favor, 1 absent, Madam Chair.
I just want to thank you guys, you did a great job coming in tonight.
Prior,
Thank you.
prior vote, the motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you.
Any questions, please call.
All right,
Seriously.
that's it for now, right? That's it for the matters, yeah. Oh,
I was
yes.
like begging.
Will the clerk please call attendance, which we forgot to do?
Randall LeBlanc, absent. Kathy Ann Harris,
Present.
Diane P. LeBlanc,
Present.
Christine A. Mackin,
Present.
Joseph P. LaCava.
Present.
4 present, 1 absent.
All right, so, the chair recognizes you.
So I'd like to take the matter of issues on Lexington Street Resolution, original date September 25th, 2017, from the table.
All those in favor of taking the matter from the table, please say aye.
Aye.
So this was brought in by myself and Councillors Roma and Fowler, sort of the 2 ward councillors in the area of Lexington Street, where it seemed like Eversource and the city I misspoke, not Eversource, National Grid and the city were just doing work and nobody really knew who was doing what, and it was just constantly in a state of disrepair, and it would seem that, you know, they would make progress, then they would disappear, and we just wanted to get some questions answered from the city engineer, Mr. Gazaza. So we brought this in and we asked for Mr. Gazaza to come in and answer some questions around it, and I don't think that he did. Did we get something in writing? Yeah, so, in any event, it's not that Lexington Street isn't a mess for a multitude of other reasons, but really what the intent of this particular resolution was, it's been satisfied. I hope that the other two councilors are okay with it. If they're not, they can, you know, make a challenge on the floor. So I'm gonna make a motion to file.
All those in favor of filing, please say aye.
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 All right, so
Yes.
I'm going to ask that the matter dated December 11, 2017, regarding resurfacing at Nutting Road be taken from the table.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So,
Can you please repeat the date?
what's that?
Can you please repeat the date?
Yeah, it's December 11, 2017.
Thank you.
Again, 1780 resurfacing of Nutting Road. The, you know, neighbors are just very interested in what's going on here. A request for title search from the law department was made back in October. In terms of turnaround time from the law department, that is not an unusually long time. However, I have been asked by one of the residents to request a status. So, Mr. Clerk, you tell me, do I need to make a request, an actual request that you get a status? Or is this something you can send an email to them? How do we handle this?
You should make a request. I'm just trying to think if Nutting Road, it might have come back with sufficient signatures, and now we're waiting on a betterment's order, but I gotta check the file. Do you want me to check where we are on that?
So, all right, so we'll leave it then at that right now, that you'll check a status and be able to report back to us at the next meeting,
Yeah.
right? Because when I look at this, the status I see is we're waiting on the law department. So if we're not, and we've received additional information, and there's an opportunity to move this forward, then, you know, we wanna have that, all right.
I think they needed one more signature, and the Ward 2 council was running on that. I
Okay,
think,
all right.
but I'll double check.
All right, so I move to lay that matter back on the table.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So, I still have the floor. I'd like to take
Yes.
the matter of resolution on the administrative consent order update from the table dated February 26, 2018. So we're talking a year ago. So the last thing I see here is a request dated June 25th, 2018, that the engineer attend the next meeting. Did anything ever happen on this, Mr. Clerk?
He did not attend the meeting. He did provide the various consent orders between DEP and EPA,
So he provided them to,
the committee.
okay. And did that in fact constitute the update?
That's between you and the engineer. I don't know.
All right, so I guess I don't know, because again, I wasn't on committee, and quite honestly, we get so much paper, I don't know, maybe I have the resolution somewhere. I don't know what the resolve said, so I don't know what our task is. Can you perhaps pull a copy of the original resolution and send it to the committee members? And if we have that update, if he has sent it electronically, since there are new members of the committee, if we could get it,
Mhm.
so that we'll know what we're supposed to do with it. All right, I move to lay that matter back on the table.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I move to take the matter from 10/22, 18, the resolution protecting youth from the dangers of using tobacco and vaping from the table. Mr. Clerk, I know that the former chair was looking to have a special meeting set up. Have we made any progress around that?
We have not, I have to talk to the new chair about that.
Okay, to see how he wants to handle it. Okay, all right, I move to put that matter back on the table.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I guess that's it for now. Oh, no, one other thing. I move to take, I don't know, collectively, what I'm trying to do here, the 7 private ways in the Golden Crest Estates, as it's referred to them here. We've got matters on our docket related to them. Some new stuff came in, that went to the Finance Committee, and 3 members of this committee are also on that committee. But still in this committee, we're still waiting for the betterments information to come back that was requested. So I would like to make a motion that a request be, a follow-up request be sent to check on the status of the betterments information for those 7 private ways in Golden Crest Estates. That's my motion.
On the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, I have a new motion. The betterments information was requested. The calculations were requested 3 different ways. The current rate of 75% owner, 25% city. The mayor's proposed rate in her veto at the time that this was originally being discussed of 50% owner, 50% city. The rate that was being deliberated at the time by the council of 33% owner and 67% city. We asked for the betterments all 3 ways because we really didn't know how that discussion was going to play out. Now we know that the way that discussion played out is that the mayor changed her position from 50-50 and indicated a willingness to support 3367 as long as some additional language was put in into the ordinance. And that is moving its way through the process, but still hasn't happened yet. But, so those were the 3 ways that we asked for the betterments to be calculated. My request is that betterments be calculated for all 7 of those private ways based on 10% owner and 90% city. And the precedent here for that calculation is Harrington Road, that made its way through this committee after all kinds of conversations and deliberations. And I believe there may be some extraordinary circumstances up in this area, that there may be some special history. So I think that that's a betterment assessment, betterment information that we want to have at our ready in the event that it goes that way. So that's my request, that we ask for it a 4th way, 10% owner and 90% city.
I have been reminded that I'm supposed to ask if anybody else is taping this meeting.
Chris Gamble,
All right,
have been recording this
thank
meeting.
you. So,
On the
motion.
on the
On the
request,
request.
through you to the at-large counselor. So can you go over the 4 ways that betterments need to be calculated?
Sure.
Please, just for the
And
record.
again, and the committee at the time asked for it this way, and I believe we're on the committee, only because the discussion was happening, right, and they didn't know the way it was gonna go. So they asked for it based upon, the current ordinance, which is 75% owner, 25% city. Because we were addressing the veto, around, private ways, it was asked for 50-50 because that's what the mayor had put out there as an offer. But then it was also, asked for 33-67, which was what we were trying to achieve and hopefully will achieve, right? Because it seemed to have even the mayor's support as long as we added the language into the ordinance that she asked for, but that's just moving its way through the process. So those were the 3 ways it was asked for. It wasn't asked for the 10%, 90%, which again, we've got at least some precedent for that, so.
Okay, one more follow-up to
Yeah.
that, thank you for explaining that. So are these 6 private ways, 6 or 7?
7.
7 private ways, are they similar to Harrington Road in any other way other than they're a private way?
No 2 ways in the city are similar. But
I didn't know if
there are
hardship
some
or-
resident, so there was actually a packet of information that was provided back to the members of the committee then, just with all of the history back in there, in that area and what had happened. So again, it's not to say that it's gonna happen, but we have the information.
Thank you for clarifying. My next question is to the clerk of the committee. Who will do these calculations and what is the expected turnaround for this information? Do you know?
The law department working with the engineering, working with law is the calculates it. I don't know what the turnaround time was, so we sent them the initial request months ago, so I'd have to.
Is there, I'm just gonna hold this up one more second here. Thank you. Through you to the council at large, is there a time sensitivity here?
So,
or
I mean,
anything?
I would hope that we would get all of this back pretty quickly, especially now, since it seems to be moving forward. The other part of this is, it's also been put on this committee to schedule, or we need to schedule some public hearings, which we can't do until the betterment's information comes back.
No further questions. Thank you very much.
So that's it, that's my request, that it be calculated that way.
I have a question, I think to the clerk. Is there a procedure to give the ward counselor a heads up that you're asking for these estimates and to indicate that they will be discussed?
He could read the minutes, or you could tell me to give him a call.
Okay. If this is, when they come back, can you just make sure that it's on the docket so everybody knows that we're gonna discuss it? Thank you, that's, all right, anybody else? Then, on the request, let me take a vote. All those in favor of the request, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think you still have the floor.
I'm good, I'll move to lay those matters back on the table.
All right.
Move to adjourn?
We took attendance, right?
Yes.
And we asked about the video. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, committee is adjourned at 6:46.
Thank you.
Good.